you guys.
Okay, this is Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We are going ahead now with our principal topic for conversation this morning. Earlier, you heard the background by Minjibril. And the topic that we'll be dealing with is political speech indiscretion ahead of the 2015 general elections. To kick off this conversation, we have right here with us in the Abuja studios, two gentlemen who are also spokespersons for the two leading political parties in the country. The gentleman in white with a red cap is Chief Olisa Metu, is National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Chief Metu, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
And the gentleman sitting next to him, also in white with black stripes, is Lai Mohammed, National Publicity Secretary of the All People's Congress, APC.
No, All Progressive
Congress, APC. Lai Mohammed, this is not your first time of coming on this program. Would like to welcome you as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, gentlemen, the background is there, and we cannot deny that ahead of the 2015 elections, scaremongering, hate speech, insults, very little focus, as it were, on ideas, how we can challenge ourselves as to what to expect from our political gladiators if they were to be voted in 2015. Why are we having this dispiriting moment, as it were, in our political in lead up to the 2015 elections? Who takes the first shot? I don't want to tap on a person.
Well, I think I must agree with you that there's been a lot of intemperate language, impassioned, sometimes outright seditious. And I think I agree with you that this does not augur well for the polity. However, we must be able to contextualize this. There are about four categories of people or persons that speak for the parties, or who can hold responsible for this, hitting of the polity. There are those who, like my good friend here and I, who are the official spokespersons for our political parties. There are those, second category, who speak for Mr. President. There are also in the third category, there are leaders of the party who are known to be leaders of the party, who also speak for the parties, for their parties. And they are sympathizers of the two political parties, who also speak for the party. And I think you must be able to locate properly among these 4 or 5 categories of people who is responsible for overheating the polity. Now, I can tell you that, unfortunately, from the empirical evidence before me, the people who have overheated the polity more than any other persons have been the second, third, and fourth categories of people, not the official spokespersons of the political parties. I think, for instance, on the 29th of September, Asai Dokubo said there will be bloodshed if Jonathan loses in 2015. Now, he was speaking for the president. He says there will be blood in the streets if Mr. Jonathan is not re-elected president in the 2015 election. Now, this, of course, is a bit, it's overheating the polity. This was as a guest of Channel's television station. In the same interview, he described the Rivers State governor as a traitor to the collective aspirations of the people of Rivers State. In the same interview, he says, I will declare for the PDP. We'll fight. Because in this battle, there is no retreat, no surrender. We will not take any prisoner of war. It will be total battle. Now, this is clearly overheating the polity. And this is not an official spokesperson of any of the parties. Now, the same Lai Mohammed continued in another statement where he said there is hypocritical reality that must be dismantled. While we have continually shown an unneedful accommodation, bending our backs to a breaking point in the sustenance of a barren and impotent Gambari North, the refined odor of their arrogance and ignorance, in their demented thought pattern as the owners of our God-given Commonwealth, calls for the immediate revocation of the further show of our charity. Now, I'm giving you examples of people who are not official spokesperson, but who have overheated the polity. You see, it's important that we make this clear to know who has said what and who has not said what. You have your own, I want to go, it's very important.
Okay, I'd like to, Lai Mohammed,
yeah.
you have kicked off by indicating what, in your opinion, are the categories of persons whose utterances have, one way or the other, contributed to the rising temperature and the polity. And you cited the example of Asari Dokubo, whom you also said, of course, is not the official spokesperson of the president, right. But he's made this contribution. Chief Olisa Metu, PDP National Publicity Secretary. What's your take on the kind of incendiary language that we'll be hearing in recent times?
Kingsley, sorry, just before Chief Metu, comes in here, just at this point, we'd like to welcome our guest from the Lagos Network Center. Just to introduce him, he's Dr. Austin Nweze. Dr. Nweze is a lecturer at School of Media and Communication Studies at the Pan-Atlantic University, Lagos. Dr. Nweze, thank you for joining the conversation this morning. We'll return to you shortly. Chief Metu is about, of course, giving his own response to the question. Chief Metu, over to you.
Thank you very much. I believe that this program is a reaction to our statement where we had insisted that the comments from leaders and elected people on the side of the APC is actually inflaming passions. We have our own examples of what has happened, but I believe that what you want to find out today is how do we move forward to create a better polity, a place where we move from trading insults to discussing on issues. More dialogue, talk about the country, how do we move the country forward, what about performance, has this government done well, what is the ideology of the opposition, what do they believe in, how do they think, what is their own option, what are the alternatives to the programs of our party. I believe that is the focus that I want to do. I have a catalog of insults, catalog of intemperate language, catalog of things that APC governors, APC leaders, all sorts of people have been insulting the president and focused on it, and the government and the party as well. But I don't think that's why we are in this program today. The program is for us to create a better environment, more conducive atmosphere for democracy to progress and to thrive. And that's what we should focus on. Thank you.
Well, just clear before you comment, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, there's apparently no disagreement as to the presence of language that we find unhealthy in the polity. From what you both have also said, there's some exoneration. You are not necessarily the champions of the language of insults that we have heard. You are both image makers. Let me ask this question because it's crucial, I believe, to the way we might begin to get over this. An image maker deals with various publics. Is it that the parties have little or no control over persons who trade insults and therefore bring odium to the organization to which they belong? And how can the parties now begin to, as it were, discipline their members on appropriate political speech? Anybody takes that?
You see, Sam, yes. I believe it is very important to actually contextualize these issues. You know, when PDP came out with a statement saying that the opposition was using foul languages against the president and was generally overheating the polity. They sought to give the impression that it is the APC alone that is guilty of this. Because I don't know exonerate, and I can tell you here that I want anybody to bring any statement I've made and see whether I've been abusive or whether I've been unnecessarily heating up the polity. However, when the governor of Katsina State said opposition should be treated like cockroaches and should be killed, PDP didn't find it necessary to call him to order. A statement like this in Rwanda, for instance, that led to genocide and led to about 800,000 lives being lost. Now, political leaders, no matter their status, must be very careful what they say. There must be decency in language. Now, it appears that some political parties have little or no control, I must say this, as to how even their spokespersons, use languages. I have here my friend here, Olisa Metu, who described me as delusional, who said I need psychiatric treatment. He called me Lai Mohammed. Now, I think it's uncalled for. You see, I could disagree with you. I could say a person is incompetent. I could say, oh, you must order for the arrest of XYZ based on facts. But when you come personal, calling your colleague delusional, I tell him that our final advice to Lai Mohammed regarding his incessant lies and insults is for him to seek professional help on his mental state before it becomes too late. It's unbecoming of a spokesperson. Now, I can also show you examples of people drumming for war. But the impression that has been created out there is as if it's APC that has been responsible for this. This I have statement from Abatia, where he describes me and my colleagues as habitual indolence and brainlessness.
Sorry, Elijah Lai. These are examples you are citing.
Yes.
Way forward. Yes.
Before you talk about Kingsley, it's very unfair for you not to allow me to comment. I actually came to this program thinking that we're going to discuss issues and we set the agenda for our democracy to thrive and for us to benefit from programs like this. I do not believe that my good friend Lai would decide to use things out of context. We replied a statement where Lai Mohammed had insisted that we issued a statement about Kano on Sanusi issue just to incite violence. And he gave examples as if he was in our mind, and he's actually the one that prepared the statement with us that we wanted to create a situation where we have violence. We felt that when you want to trade lies, when you want to say things, there should be limit to how you can impute that. Because if anything happened in Kano, I would have been held responsible for it. And he knew very well that when you make statements, sometimes you can quote an information that is not totally correct. Just like what he did in terms of the governor. You cannot come to national TV and decide to quote a governor when a governor had come out to insist and say that he never said any such thing and he was quoted out of context. Then you come on national. These are things that we're talking about. Right. Let us move this country forward. I have the example of where Lai Mohammed himself, if we need to go back, if we want to debate about the past, where Lai Mohammed called Jonathan, the president of this country, called him a liar and said lies have never won a bolder face. And he's saying that I called him lying like Mohammed, but he called the president of Nigeria, he said lies have never won a bolder face. That was November 11, 2014. I have somewhere where he said putting more money in the hands of an incompetent, massively corrupt, can only encourage more incompetence and corruption, especially where the president is stealing the money. I have a situation, I have statements from the APC interim national chairman where there are all kinds of quotes that they have made. They said APC will set a new government. The governor of Rivers went to a campaign and said, I came to Bori to prove to you that you don't need to run away from violence. If a man is chasing you with AK-47, you should carry machine gun and the man will call for peace. You are inciting people. You are creating an atmosphere for violence. Now he says, what is the essence of going to court? We will form our own government. That's anarchy. You are trying to create chaos completely. Their former Deputy National Secretary, Nasir El-Rufai, says the next election is likely to be violent, and many people are likely going to die. And the only alternative left to get power is to take it by force. I mean, there's so many things, but I didn't come here to talk about these quotes. I didn't come here where you say that the president of Nigeria chose to keep quiet because he's the godfather of the oil thieves.
All right.
I didn't come here to do that.
No, Chief
I
Metu,
want us to move
Chief
forward.
Metu, my colleague Claire,
where we can debate on issues. How do we make it better?
Yes, that's fine. Chief Metu, let's assume that there's an equalizer. Lai Mohammed has read some of those insults. You have also read some. Our purpose here, as you've rightly both acknowledged, is not to rebroadcast the insults. We are saying this is a problem. And you both, as spokesperson, acknowledge this. Claire?
Yes, Kingsley. I'd just like to also, emphasize that point that both spokesmen have acknowledged the fact that parties are guilty. Both parties, indeed all parties, are guilty of this offense. But let me go to Lagos, where Dr. Austin Nweze will probably help us put this language use into context. Dr. Nweze, I think it's George Orwell or so who said that our civilization is becoming, quite decadent, and that language, should necessarily share, also in the collapse, and that language should be a natural growth. And in philosophy of language, there are those who believe that there is no difference or little difference between the language used and the thought or content and actions of the person that is used. So can the language used determine the actions or thoughts of the person who is using the language?
The important thing is that the nature of politics in any society, determines the kind of language used in that, especially during politics, because the language is important in democracy, in politics. And talking about the two things that we have, to which also listening to both friends of mine, Lai Mohammed and Olisa Metu, is two things that came out clear. In politics, you have political rhetorics, which is using persuasion, and the politicians saying that using words or language to persuade voters to vote for them to win any election. And they're not really, they'll promise all kinds of things which eventually they may or may not do, and they're not directly lying about it, but this is language of politics. And also you have what I also call linguistic intimidation, which is what they have also been emphasizing, talking about my two friends with you there, Olisa Metu and Lai Mohammed, that linguistic intimidation, where they say all kinds of things to, to intimidate, and that leads to violence as well. But let's go back, even during the First Republic. You find that the same thing that happened, you heard of Operation Waitie, that caused a problem in your state those days. And again, how powerful language is, rhetorics, political rhetorics is. You find that it was the same thing that Adolf Hitler used to galvanize all the Germans to win, because he saw the poverty in the land, how the French invaded Germany, and how German politicians sold out to the French. And he wasn't happy, and he began to train himself, realizing there was an important statement that Hitler made. He said that if great movements all over the world have their success determined not by writers, but by speakers. So speeches are very, very important in winning any election, and that's why we have to be careful how we use language in politics. So these are the things that politicians use to persuade, that's political rhetorics, to persuade voters to vote for them. And again, where they seem that, well, and if they cannot get it that way, they use linguistic intimidation, as you have been hearing our two friends do. But I think that democracy will develop if we engage in political rhetorics more than linguistic intimidation. And again, maybe as we progress, we begin to proffer solutions and how we can begin. And you find that these things are not just because of politics. You have to trace it back. How did we get here? And, you know, you find that it started right from the home. You know, you see parents abusing their children and telling them, we're and all that. You know, that child will grow up and begin to repeat the same thing to society. That child will become a problem to society. And eventually, when that child holds a position, he will be abusing all kinds of people. You know, I'm not happy about the language used so far. This President Jonathan, you know, it has been I have never seen a president so abused. So, you know, because we have to respect the office of the president. Because if you don't respect it, tomorrow you can be the president. And whatever you sow, you reap. So we need to moderate our language and begin to, and you don't blame people because the political culture is not there. You know, for us, and how many years of democracy and all that, but it behoves us to begin to train ourselves and begin to educate the people on how to make political speech, how to talk, so that you don't cause problems to the society. Okay, Dr. Nweze, you know, sometimes leadership of the political parties will come out to exonerate their members, either as having been misquoted or quoted out of context. So could it be that when politicians use these words, they are ignorant of the meaning and potency of the words they have chosen to speak out? Is it possible? Is it likely? Is it likely? Yes, you know, because sometimes politicians speak out of anger. And when you speak out of anger, you're likely going to say things you're not supposed to say in public. You can say it in private, but not in public. So one thing again is that our politicians don't even take time to be schooled, to be trained on public speeches. I have never seen a politician going for a special training or coming to the School of Media, for instance, where he can be taught on how to make such speeches, so that he or she could also learn how not to speak in public. So we need some grooming, we need some training. You know, our politicians, excuse me, should be able to subject themselves, humble themselves, to go for training. Even the American president, you know, they train him on how to make speeches. And you know, so if you aspire to go into any political office, the first thing you should do is to begin to, first of all, what are the issues? Focus on issues. You go for training, you'll be trained, both in how to make speeches. When you listen to some of our politicians, you'll be amazed. I mean, it's usually, how on earth can this person come out to say he's contested when he can't even make a correct statement? So it's important that, you know, that we begin to train. You know, the first thing to do is go and learn the art of speaking, so especially public speaking, so that you'll be able to, you know, communicate to the audience out there.
Okay, now that's Dr. Austin Nweze of the Pan-Atlantic University. One key point he has made now: there is need for speech grooming, public speech grooming for political actors. Gentlemen, we have, let's not rehash the catalogue of insults and threats. What would you like to see? Well, there's one takeaway message from already from Dr. Nweze. What would you like to see?
Let me tell you what I'd like to see. I'd like to see more restraint in the way our leaders and our people speak. Because when you look at a party like PDP, with such a large following, for now the biggest party in this country, and you dare them and you insist that if you lose the election, you resort to violence or you will not accept government. Are you trying to tell the party with the largest support base that if they ever lose the election, they should do what? They should support you? Because it works both ways. When you threaten people, if perchance, except if you believe that you will not win the election. If you win the election, are you telling them that they should accept it, or are you trying to inflame them, instigate them as well, that they can resort to violence? We want this election, the process of this election, this period, because we have trying times now, to be based on discussion on issues. Let us discuss issues. Let us discuss programs of the government, the alternatives by the opposition, the ideology of the PDP, where they think the APC, they have an edge on us. Let us base our campaign on it. As a political party, I can commit here that from today onwards, that the People's Democratic Party will rein in every single member, official, elected, appointed, or their spokesperson, or anybody, to stop any statements that will inflame passion, any statement that will instigate violence, any statement that is used with interpret language. Now, because the electoral process should be based on competence. What is the candidate offering? What is his program? What is the manifesto? Let us go back to how politics is supposed to be.
All right.
Now, we believe that we want to build a nation.
Chief Metu, just hold on a second. Chief Metu, just hold on a second. Just keep your gunpowder dry still. Lai Mohammed, there is a commitment now from the PDP. Now, what would you like to see?
Well, the commitment from the PDP, I'm happy to hear it, because from our party, we've always insisted that the most decent language should be used. As a matter of fact, we always insist that not just anybody can speak for the party. But like you rightly said, when you have a very large party and you have leaders, at times you have no control over what a governor says, because you expect probably that a governor should know what to say. Now, but you see, it's important to look at situations in the right perspective. One, we are an opposition party, and everywhere in the world, the role of opposition and that of government are slightly different. Two, an action would beget an equal and opposite reaction. We should look at the underlying issues that lead to statements that are termed to be inflammatory, or that are termed to be hitching up the polity. And this is where it's very important. Take, for instance, there was recently the exercise of collection of PVC. It was so badly handled by INEC that the states that were concerned naturally came out and said, look, what are we doing? Why are you depriving us of the right to vote? Is it part of your plan to rig the election? Now, and why would APC say a thing like that? You conducted, collection of permanent voters card and registration in 12 states: Lagos, Ogun, Kano, Rivers, Nigeia, Katsina, Kaduna, Nasarawa, and the like. And all of a sudden, over 1 million names disappeared in Lagos. About 550,000 disappeared in Kano. Now, naturally, an opposition party or any party will raise eyebrow and say, why is it that when it is the turn of the largely, held strongholds of the party that this is happening? Again, sir, I think, and it's very important, that we do not quote people out of context. APC never said if they lost the election, they won't accept the outcome. They said if elections are not free and fair. And there's a whole world of difference between the two. It might be a way of APC saying, let there be free and fair election. Now, that is different for somebody who says, and I quote, that even if elections are free and fair, President Jonathan does not win election, there will be violence. There are two different issues. Now, I will be the first to admit and accept that we have no other country apart from this country. And we must do everything possible to make sure it works. Election only comes once in 4 years. This country must continue to exist, and must continue to cohabit. But we all have that responsibility. And it's very important. For 1 second. You see, it's important, sir. You see, many people will come out and say the APC or the ACN or whatever, they have been very rude to Mr. President. They have, look, or they abuse Mr. President. There's a difference between criticism and abuse. And in politics...
What would you consider? Give us the definition. Abuse and criticism.
Now, if I say a man is insane, that's an abuse. If I say a man is incompetent, it's criticism.
And if a man is lying?
If I say a man is lying, that is abuse.
If you say a president is a thief?
No. In what context? In what context?
What is it?
In what context? Because in what context? In what context?
Sorry, gentlemen, we're running out of time. No, let's look at this issue. Let's look at this issue. There is a political party code of conduct, which appears to, I suppose should be binding on all the political parties. I don't know how many political parties are signatory to it, but I presume that the APC and the PDP are. Chief Metu?
Well, I totally agree with you. For us, as a political party, we believe it's time to bring back the values in this country. Bring back the values based on fairness, justice, equity. But most importantly, let us build a country where we have peace, where we can have joy, where we can have love for one another, for each other. Those are the things that we should be preaching about. But permit me, for the purpose of this conversation, to remind my good friend Lai Mohammed that we don't want to go back to Old Testament. I give a commitment here, but you want to bring us back to debate on issues that we have a different view on and that we have a different alternative. When we decide to say that the way the PVC issue was handled in Lagos was actually manipulated by the media, people were caught cloning INEC PVCs. And you take it away from there and you're talking about the number of votes. What happened with INEC has happened in every single state. We had issues in our own states where we believe that INEC had a problem and had a shortfall in ensuring that people did not have the number of votes they were supposed to have. But INEC have come out to enlighten us on it. Let us focus on issues. Let us focus on issues
of the party code of conduct. Why are parties
on the code of conduct?
Yes, why are parties
on the code of conduct? Let me talk about when I talk. Excuse me, when I'm speaking.
Sorry, Alhaji Lai, you will have your turn.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Alhaji Lai, you will have your turn, please.
Thank you very much.
Let's look at why parties are breaching the code of conduct, which ought to be binding. Chief Metu, you were responding to that before Alhaji Lai will take his turn.
I believe I can speak. Now, on the code of conduct, it is time for us political parties to issue a command or directive to all our people, all the elected people, all the appointed people, that we should be careful about what we say and we should be careful of how we say it. We believe that the problem that we have in this country started in 2010 when some people made statements that inflamed passions, that instigated violence, and other people that were not so educated, not so enlightened, dwelt on that statement and used it maybe because of religion or other things. They decided to start some kind of violence. This country, we are equal partners. You cannot start criticizing people because you believe that someone is not supposed to rule because of where he comes from. You do not paint that kind of picture for who you believe that the majority to start fighting that the minority should not. No, you do not do that. The impressions that have been created by APC leaders on issues of why the president should not be re-elected. Please give us information, debate on his competence, debate on his performance, on the healthcare, on education, let us move the discourse, please. Let us move it to things that are more productive for the nation.
Okay. Thank you very much. You see, when we come to a stage like this, we must be factual. How can you say that APC is accused of is cloning PVCs? the SSS invaded our database unlawfully, carted away all our information, and as I'm speaking to you, 6 days after, they can't come out with proof of one single card that has been cloned. Yet you went ahead to say that we have 36 centers where we are cloning cards. This is the kind of statements that we're trying to fight against. You came out without any proof that 36 centers. What kind of politics is that? Excuse me.
So that we don't get stampeded in the air. Focus also on the way forward. That's important.
Now, you see, there's nowhere, no time, the APC has said Mr. President should not be elected on the basis of where he comes from or his religion. Never. As a matter of fact, we are the first to say that it's not the first minority leader in Nigeria, and we cite the example of Balewa. Now, the issue at stake in Nigeria today has nothing to do with religion or ethnicity. It's about purposeful leadership. It's about quality leadership that will make sure that the man in Kano and the man in Kalabari have high quality life. Hunger, famine, disease makes no difference between the South-South and the Northwest. I feel hunger the same way you feel hunger. We would criticize the government based on its policies, but we're not personal about it. But you see, when you look at examples in other parts of the world of opposition criticism, you find that we're extremely mild here, very, very mild, because we're also very mindful of the level of political development here. Now, let me tell you, as far back as about 6 months ago, the interim chairman of APC then, Chief B.C. Akande, wrote a letter to the chairman of the PDP asking for dialogue ahead of 2015 election. I'm saying this publicly, saying that we must meet, that we are the two major political parties, we must meet and address issues such as language, code of conduct. And this was what I brought back from Washington, where myself and Dr. Donyo Kukwe went to a workshop organized by the Center for International and Strategic Studies in Washington, that there's a need for the major political actors to come together and agree on a code of conduct. So we even took the initiative to write. I don't know what came out of that initiative.
Okay, so sorry, sorry, Chief Metu, that's one other point that we have taken from this. The two leading political parties and other stakeholders should, as a matter of urgency, strive to come to a round table and discuss these matters. If we still have the Lagos Network Center, Dr. Austin Weze.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah,
just things should not be very cosmetic.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
It should not be cosmetic. It should be real, because you cannot write a letter to the national chairman of the PDP and at the same time you accuse the president of organizing mass murders of citizens. And you now insist because they are not his people. And the same thing you have a presidential candidate.
Who said that?
The governor of Adamawa said that. Let me give you the date that the governor of Adamawa said that.
Gentlemen, we have to go back to Lagos now. We have to go back. No, sorry.
Chief Metu. Examples of where you come from.
Chief Metu. No. Gentlemen, APC.
Let's not talk about the past.
Okay. We're going back. No, we are going back to the Lagos Network Center. Right there, Dr. Nweze. Dr. Nweze, if Dr. Nweze can hear us from the Lagos Network Center, right there on the screen. Now, there's a point to all of this. If Chief Metu and Alhaji Lai were saying this in the comfort or in the heated environment of their private lounges, it would be otherwise. But this is mass communication, and gatekeeping is one critical function in mass communication. As part of the prescription for going forward, some persons believe that part of what we have suffered from it's very poor gatekeeping. Editors allow utterances such as we have complained about to be published. What role do you think we can assign now to gatekeepers in order to moderate what goes out into the public domain from some of the heated arguments and intemperate language of political actors?
The point still goes back to what I said earlier about the culture of the people. If a gatekeeper or if gatekeepers are not well, they don't understand some of the issues about making speeches and the public and the differentiating from the one they make in the private, it becomes a problem. Now we should go back to the begin from the beginning. What do I mean by that? Go back to primary, bringing up children, so that teaching them some of these civil things, civility, to be civil to others. And if a man or a woman has not been civil to his or her parents or elders, for instance, there's no way that person will grow up and do anything different, because you cannot give what you don't have. So we need to go back to, put it as part of our educational curriculum, to begin to train so that we can bring up a future generation of people that will understand how to use political language, and because our people are not politically literate, we need to begin to train them, starting from the primary school, starting from the home, because the home is very, very important. Because once the home is not in order, it affects every facet of the society. If a child is not well brought up at home, it becomes a problem to the society. So we must bring parents, teachers, and leaders should be able to show examples. Know when you are angry, what are the issues. Separate issues from your personal, personal grudge that you have against anybody. And again, we need to show respect. Respect is very, very important in addition to education, educating the public about how to use the use of language, political language. We need to show respect and show some restraint. Because if you do not show respect for that office that somebody is occupying, if you do not show respect for each other, you bring that out to the public domain. So we also have to learn how to use dialogue and tolerance. Our political leaders sometimes feel that if they don't get it this time, that the next day they will die and never get it again. But it is wrong. We need to use dialogue. We need to show some tolerance. If you don't get it today, tomorrow is there. Maybe because everything is timing. So again, I also want to encourage the media. Sometimes the media could also in order to sell their papers or get audience to listen to their programs, if it's electronic or the print media, they use some language, maybe, yellow journalism, the negative things sell more and all that, to be able to sell their product. But
Okay.
the media has a role to play in moderating some of those things. If, for instance, somebody said something on television, it behoves the moderator to say, look, you cannot use such language in a television. Or if a print journalist interviews someone or heard a comment, it behoves that person to look at the bigger picture. With this, by reporting what this man said, will it hit up the polity? So we should be looking at the larger picture. The larger picture is the unity of Nigeria, and then forget about your personal issues, your political leanings as a journalist. So the journalists have a big role to play in making sure that such statements, because the masses get to know about it when journalists report it. You can the journalist can also tell the politician who has made some statement, look, this statement you have made is not right, but I will not publish it.
All right, so now, Dr. Nweze, that's an elaboration.
Nigeria that responsibility not to report some of those things that politicians make.
Okay, sorry, Kingsley, we'll just quickly take our last set of questions, one or two for the gentlemen here in the studio. And I'm glad that the two leading political parties in Nigeria have agreed for us to move forward in terms of language use during political, campaigns. But my question to you, gentlemen, Alhaji Lai Mohammed and Chief Metu, is, are we likely, moving forward, going to see sanctions? Parties begin to bring out sanctions on erring members. It might be difficult to even sanction those who are not, who are not members of your party. But anyhow, are we likely to see sanctions?
Well, I believe that the only way that we can move forward is for all things to be passed away and for all things to be new. And that is why, even though I believe that the degree of reaction that we did was commensurate to the degree of provocation, I want to inform my good friend Lai Mohammed that if we actually felt bad about any attack that we believe was personal, I have forgiven. And I want to pray to him that someday he will find in his heart to forgive, so that we can move forward. If he felt bad about anything in the statement, let us move forward, and he can talk to his people to be much more decent in their communication. The way that we can move forward is for us to have programs, talk to our people, organize seminars and conferences for elected people, for people who are running the elections, and inform them that the fate of this country is much more important than that of a political party. Nigeria must survive. And for Nigeria to grow, we need to be careful about how we talk, because these are trying times.
Well, I think the responsibility for this lies largely, on the two of us. If we are temperate in our language, I'm sure those who are not official spokespersons of the parties would follow in our step. But if I am, for instance, inflammatory in my language, and I'm supposed to be a professional, what do I expect of non-professionals? So I think it starts here, that we should face issues and stop using derogatory language that are aimed at the person and not at the subject.
Good. Gentlemen, just before, sorry, Chief Metu. The point to make.
Kingsley, excuse me. Alhaji Lai, you have not told us. Going forward, Chief Metu has told us, okay, if we have said this, we have said this, forgive us. This is what we're going to do. What is the APC going to do? You are not listening.
You are not listening. I said that the responsibility lies on both of us. That people would take their cue from what both of us say, and now we handle ourselves. This is what I said.
Yeah? Well, okay. I made a commitment here, and the reason why I make that commitment is because we believe that in the last 3.5 years, besides the lives that have been lost and people who have been displaced in their places, on the political side, the biggest victim of this insurgency and the violence in the Northeast is the federal government, the PDP-led federal government. Resources that have been spent, a lot of money that we would have used on infrastructure and other things have been spent on providing for security. Now the government, there's been an attempt to detract the government and distract it from doing its duties. So if there is peace, if passions are not inflamed, violence is not instigated, and we have a stable, peaceful country, can you imagine what this President Jonathan would have done in 3.5 years?
Okay,
in 3 years, people are very happy with what he has done. Healthcare, education, transport, other things. What would it have been if we had peace? We want the
Chief Metu, Chief Metu, Alhaji Lai, as you very well know, gentlemen, this program is delimited by time.
Absolutely.
Just wait. No. What we will do, we will have that opportunity right now.
Right.
Both of you are spokespersons. To many Nigerians, some of the key issues that we face, the economy, we are seeing the slide in oil prices and how the consequences are already reverberating. Insecurity, infrastructure deficit in certain key areas, as well as the need to provide jobs for the unemployed. Now, for the benefit of our viewers who are watching this program, all of this heat about you have done nothing, you are incompetent, let's not go back to that. Those 4 key points, very briefly, gentlemen, what would be that your party would do as to warrant the electorate to vote you into office?
Well, I would take the first shot, and our manifesto,
very briefly too,
we intend to create 3 million jobs in our first year, in our first 4 years. We intend to employ over 100,000 security personnel to boost the security strength. We intend to return pride and glory back to our armed forces. We intend to make a conditional transfer every month to the 25 million most vulnerable Nigerians. We intend in our manifesto that every job seeker will be given conditional payment until he gets a job. And any youth corper between the time of graduation and the time is seeking for a job will be paid half the stipend he was being paid during youth service. On the area of electricity, we have guaranteed that in our first year, in our very first term, we would make sure that we generate a minimum of 10,000 megawatts of power, in addition to whatever is on ground. So this is our pact with Nigerians.
Chief Metu.
We will not promise Nigerians that we will turn Nigeria into El Dorado or we create moons. We will not promise that we're going to give you 1 million naira each. We'll make false promises. Our commitment is that we'll continue with the transformation agenda. Our agenda on healthcare, what we have done on education, building universities in all the states of the Federation, the ones that they didn't have before, what the transformation agenda on transport. But most importantly, the key is that this government and this party, we have found out that the most important thing to do at this point is reorientation of our values. We're all Nigerians, whether you're in the civil service or you're in the military or you're in the police or any place that you are, you're a Nigerian. If we have a reorientation of our core values and we'll bring back this country for our people to know that we can only progress if our country is built on equity, truth, and justice, then we can progress. We want to see a situation people will know that there's a difference between being wealthy and being successful. Nigerians should strive to be successful in their endeavors, not to be wealthy.
All right.
To be a rich man is not important. Let us de-emphasize the importance or the rush for young people to look for quick money.
All right,
let us go back to our core values.
At this point, we'd just like to appreciate Dr. Austin Nweze, lecturer, School of Media and Communication Studies, Pan Atlantic University, Lagos. Thank you, Dr. Nweze, for joining in the conversation this morning, and of course to gentlemen here in the studio, Lai Mohammed, and the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressive Congress, APC, and the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, the ruling party, PDP, Chief Olisa Metu. Gentlemen, thank you for coming. You've always obliged us whenever we invite you.
Incidentally,
today is Olisa's birthday, and I wish him the very best. I hope you invite me for dinner.
That's the spirit.
Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. We move on now. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. It's reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. And now